Bud, you did an awesome job. I love this afro. This is Bud, and this is Bud's roadmap to success. Now, Buddy is only been in with his guardian for a couple weeks, and usually dogs are almost in a panic or in a state of shock for the first 3 days that they come home from a shelter. There's just, their world is upended. And then it takes about up to 3 weeks before you see the dog's true personality. So the guardian's only had him a couple weeks. He might still have some other issues that are coming up. If you do run into other problems, please let me know. I want all my clients to call me if you have any questions. Texting is going to be the fastest way to reach me, but please don't wait. The sooner you notice a problem, the sooner we start putting a solution in place, typically the easier it is to fix. Okay, basically, I summed up, I went over a lot of stuff that I would go into a little bit more detail because this guardian did not create this problem. She's only had him for a couple weeks. He's had separation anxiety before he came here. And so the one time she left him home alone, he started tearing down some blinds. He also goes down and has an accident in the basement in the same spot. Now, the accident might be related to potty training, so we started off the session by going over some potty training tips. Remember, the 3 times a dog's gonna need to go right after waking up, 5 minutes after eating, and 15 minutes after the start of playtime. Now he's trying to get me to play with him. Yes. Now if he's licking you, you want to call it kisses, use passive training and come up with a command word for that. So we went over those are the 3 times the dog's most apt to go. So after those 3 times, make sure you take him outside so he's in the right place when he has to go. The other thing is, I think we use the word business or deposit. And so basically when he starts to pee or poop, say the word business once in a normal tone of voice. When he gets done, pop a treat in his mouth and say business or deposit again after the treat goes in the mouth. Anytime you use a treat, they should do the command word after the treat goes in their mouth. Then say it a second time. The first time associates the word with the action, second time associates the word with the reward. And after a while, they'll be all conflated. Let me see. So that should help with the potty training. And I don't know if it's potty training. A lot of dogs with separation anxiety do lose control of their bowels. So because the house is right now being ripped up, I would probably, well, right now he's not going to be free. I would recommend you keep him in a kennel unless he's not having a lot of accidents. You have to kind of depend on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes the kennel is so negative that it's worse. Now, in the video above this, we went over tips for separation anxiety and how to kennel train your dog. In the interim, you might want to consider taking him to doggy daycare for a week or 2 and practice the heck out of the kennel. So that way we take away, if you practice putting him in the kennel while we're teaching him to go in the kennel, it really slows down your progress. So I believe there's a dog daycare not too far away from here. And so if it's a good one, they'll supervise. Usually the first day is for free, and they have cameras so you can watch and all that, and see how he does when he comes home. And then basically, he burns off this excess energy. He gets a lot of mental enrichments and stimulation, and gives you a chance when you come home and practice the kennel thing and get him used to it. Now, I also like the guardian to move the kennel into her bedroom and have him sleep in the bed in the kennel next to her. And make sure you practice the same exercise I showed you upstairs when you move it downstairs. So that gives him another practice opportunity being in the kennel calm. Now, to help make sure that he has practice being alone, I showed the guardian off camera how to teach your dog to stay. Remember to stop sign your hand and say stay and I do half distance between me and the dog, and every time I get to the stopping point is when I say stay, I turn my hand to my chest and then I count whatever it is. And work your way up to 5 minutes, then do distraction or distance, then do distraction. Message me if you have problems with it. I can go share a video if you can't find them or have any questions. So we're going to tackle the problem on multiple angles. Also, we're going to make sure we don't pet him when he's nervous and anxious. That's probably one of the most common mistakes people make. Anything our dog is doing when we pet it is what we're amplifying. A lot of people will pet a nervous dog and will make it more nervous. So instead, what we want to do is use passive training and petting with a purpose. Passive training is just waiting for him to do something organically on his own. So if he were to LAY right now, I would pet him and say LAY. We still going? If he sits, pet him and say sit. Every time he comes to you, pet him and say come. Probably not going to be hard to do on that one because he follows his guardian around everywhere. But the idea is we want to reward them when they do desired actions and behaviors so that they're more inclined to want to do those in the future. I recommend the guardian name all the toys, and I recommend that she also teach the dog new tricks or commands 1 a week for the next 8 weeks. So that way we have new ways to redirect him, we boost his self-esteem, and give him a skill set, and it's just a lot of fun. It'll deepen the relationship between the two of you. Let me see. Come up with a list of command words. Come up with funny command words, and use one-word commands that don't sound like something else, and try to avoid using adjectives. Not go potty, just potty, or not Good come, just come. All right, let me see, what else do we go over? We went through a bunch of rules and how to enforce them using the escalating consequences. The rules, I'm just going to summarize. I won't tell you how to go through them because we already did that off camera. If you have questions, just message me. So rule number 1, no furniture. It's going to be really difficult because there's just all kinds of crazy, great furniture in this house right now. I'm joking. Sit. So that's a good example of passive training. Let me see. He has to sit before we let him in or out of a door. Once you get to the point where he's sitting for the doors, if you want to teach him to stay, even with the door swung wide open, let me know and I can share a video with you on that. Not being allowed to be within 7 feet of a human who's eating. No sharing people food. We're not going to allow him in the kitchen when we're preparing or reheating food. Not let him go up through a door ahead of us or up and down stairs ahead of us. When feeding, and this is something I didn't go over with the Guardian, so I'm going to go over it right now. Dogs eat in the order of their rank. So if we put food down and then we don't eat, and he eats in front of us, then he thinks he has more rank or status than us. Some dogs actually won't eat, just like for us, if the Guardian and I are at a restaurant for dinner and they bring my food and don't bring hers, it would be rude of me to start eating my food before she comes. So some dogs won't eat, and I have people that, like, my dog has an eating problem. It's not that, it's just the dog doesn't think it has the authority to eat in front of you. So make sure that you eat something first and then feed the dog. What I do is I give a chip or a cracker if I'm not going to eat my actual meal and eat it in 5 or more bites, then give the dog permission to eat. Now I use passive training to come up with a command word for this, so every time he takes his first bite for 2 months, say chow or grub or whatever the word is that you want to use. After a while you say grub and he knows that means I get to go eat food. And this is just something you're going to do every day. If you just get a little bit of structure added to it, it's just a regular part of your routine that reinforces a healthy leader or follower dynamic. Now when he goes and sniffs his bowl, he's on the clock. If he sniffs his bowl and then walks away, pick up the bowl, dump it empty, put the empty bowl back down. Don't take the whole bowl away because that's looked at as rewarding. Now he wants to jump up, and this is because when people have a puppy, the dog jumps up on him and on their shin and they pet him. Now he's also invading my personal space, and the Guardian has to decide how close you want him to get. If you get frustrated with him being this close, let me know, and I can share a video that'll show you how to establish good boundaries. But if he invades my space and I pet him, then I'm rewarding him for invading my space. So passive training is great, but make sure you're cognizant of what your dog is doing at the time that you do it. Let me see. Crash. Very good. Let me see. So when you feed him, I'd like to have the Guardian feed him at least twice a day. And again, as soon as he walks away, pick up his bowl, dump it, but make sure you put the empty bowl down on the ground. Now, at the very beginning of the session, I showed the Guardian my technique to stop dogs from jumping up or getting excited. And so, let's not lick your hot spot, buddy. He's getting a little hot spot on his Tootsie. So when that's the case, having a treat or something you can just throw towards him and get him to chase it is a great way to redirect his attention, which I'll see if I have a treat to do that. There we go. So I'm not telling him where to go. I'm just throwing it out, and he's got to come and get it on his own, which he did. So redirecting your dog's attention is a great way to do. A lot of dogs lick compulsively when their paws. Sometimes it can be allergies, sometimes it can be stress, sometimes it's OCD. So a lot of dogs like chewing carrots, and actually, go ahead and film that. Well, he didn't go in there. He just walked over to the kennel. He stopped in front of it, but he's walking over there. So we're already seeing the benefits of what we worked on earlier. Just make sure you add a little bit of structure to mealtime. The last thing I'm going to go over is really what encapsulation. Go ahead and film. Unsolicited. And then a treat fell from the sky. All right, you can come back to me. So that's awesome. That's something to celebrate. As we're practicing, you should start seeing him go in the kennel more and more and sleeping in the kennel and just hanging out. So basically what I do when I have a dog that doesn't behave well, or I say doesn't behave well, but behaves in a way we don't like, is a lot of times I ask my client, have you taught the dog how to behave in that situation? They say, no. Well, then that's our fault, not the dog's fault. So if a dog fails in a situation, what I try to do is recreate the situation. But I peel back several elements to make it as easy as possible. Instead of having a house full of people, I might practice with just me and the dog, or whatever it is. And I break the activity down into individual steps. Come. And I practice the first step over and over until independent of any other steps or any other stimulation, until the dog knows how to behave for that step. Once the dog behaves for that step the way that I want, then that just leashes. Then I go the next step, and I practice that same step number 2, over and over until the dog has it. And I do this for each individual step until the dog knows how to do all the individual steps of the activity. And we have to essentially think of one activity as one thing. I get up and go and answer the door. That's actually several things. First, the doorbell rings, or first they see somebody walking the door, then the doorbell rings, then the human stands up, then the human walks to the door, then the human reaches for the door, then the human unlocks the deadbolt, then the handle, then twists the handle, then opens a little bit, then opens all the way, then opens the next door. All those are individual steps you can help the dog practice if your dog has a problem with the door. So when your dog has a behavior problem or doesn't behave the way you want, recreate all the steps individually, one at a time, practice them in the easiest capacity possible. Then once they know how to do all the steps together individually, string them all together. And once you've done that, come, a little bit of passive training. Try to pet him under his chin whenever possible. And then eventually I can string all the steps together, sit. And then eventually I can start adding back other elements and work my way back to the real world situation. And I've taught the dog how to behave. So like, and a good example, and sometimes you can also do things to help the dog practice. One of the rules I said was the dog's not allowed to be within a human who's eating. Well, you're going to use the escalating consequences to move the dog away, but before you do that, maybe we help the dog practice. Before we actually sit down for our meal, and careful also on his back legs, I'm noticing on his back of his legs you see orange. When you have a white dog and you see orange, that means they're licking it. So that means he's licking the back of his legs there, so there might be an allergy or something like that. I'm trying to think, what was I just saying? Now we can't remember because the phone's ringing and we have the pressure. But basically break down those steps individually, one at a time, and help the dog practice over and over until the dog knows how to behave, how you want them to behave. All right, well, this is Bud, and this is Buddy's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you need it. Right, Buddy?